The transhumanist quest to crack the human code. What the heck is that? Stay tuned. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. We've all heard about the Human Genome Project, right? But do you know what that means? Do you know what that really entails? Do you, from, say, a Christian perspective, understand the deeper evils involved with that? It doesn't necessarily have to be evil, but like all things that start out for the good of humanity, somebody somewhere comes along and finds a way to use it for some evil genius purpose. Such is the field of medical breakthroughs. Such is the field of scientific discovery. Such is the field of artificial intelligence. But if you don't know too much about it, then you certainly want to listen to my guest today, because she has written this great book called Hacking the God Code, and I'm going to get into exactly what that means for the future of humanity, the future of the human race, not to mention just the future of you and me in just a few minutes. But I want to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you can get Bold and Blunt not only where all your podcasts are available, Spotify and so forth, not only at WashingtonTimes.com, where you go there, go to the bottom of the page, find the newsletter section, click on it, find my name, click on that, and sign up for my 3 times a week newsletter. Comes out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, contains all my commentaries at the Washington Times, as well as my twice weekly Tuesdays and Thursdays Bold and Blunt podcasts. So not only can you get Bold and Blunt at those 2 places, but you can get Bold and Blunt at edify.app. That is the online platform for faith-based podcasts. Go there, check it out, get Bold and Blunt, but check out all the other podcasts that are available there. There are some great podcasts, and certainly we could all use a little bit of jolt of faith in these dark, perilous times. And I speak specifically to post-election. Where was that red wave? Well, red wave, pink wave, whatever. At least it looks like Republicans will control the House, though let's have some stand-up strong Republicans controlling the House, not caving to all the Democrat demands from the White House and the Senate. No more raising the debt ceiling. How about that old constitutional control that the legislature has of the purse strings? That right there could put a stop to any nefarious Democrat designs to cripple America from within and usher in a time of great China dominance around the world and in America. Let's hope our Republicans stand firm on constitutional principles. And speaking of China, do you know that China is coming on strong with the technology advancements? And they're seizing the landscape of artificial intelligence and dominating there. And you know why? Because the food of artificial intelligence development is data. And China, unlike America, does not have to worry about any old privacy rights, privacy laws, constitutional concerns, civil liberties organizations crying in court and so forth about the unconstitutional seizure of data from individual citizens. No, China doesn't have to worry about that. China can just put cameras everywhere and anywhere and all the time to follow and track and surveil their citizens all the time because, hey, that's what communists do. And hey, that's what China is, a communist nation. It's a nation that America really shouldn't try to partner with or cooperate with or collaborate with in any way, shape, or form. Joe Biden, I wish you were listening right now, because Joe Biden, of course, just famously said to China that he wants to manage the partnership, manage the coordination to help facilitate what? Amicable relations? How do you have amicable relations with evil? If you're good, how do you do business with evil? How do you strike that common middle ground with evil? You can't. You don't. And this leads me in a rather long circular way back to the topic at hand. Hacking our DNA. Hacking the God code. Let me read you this. It's a piece that was written in January of 2020, posted at medium.com. The headline, Hacking Our DNA and Beyond, How We Can Code Human Life. What? Code human life? I thought that was God's domain. Well, guess what? It is. But you know what? In this day and age of growing secularism, this is why this scientific development, this scientific pursuit, this medical quest is gaining steam. Because if you don't believe in God, you don't have to worry about any sort of consequences from stealing God's glory, say, his ability to create. But back to this piece. Being in the tech industry, this particular writer wrote, Raya Mehta, I'm butchering the name, it's R-I-Y-A, and then last name M-E-H-T-A. Anyhow, this particular writer wrote, I hear a lot about new technologies like biometrics for body language recognition or coding machine learning algorithms. But in my opinion, the most innovative use of technology is the one used to code human life, the one used to hack our DNA. In other words, gene editing. Isn't that interesting? It sounds so soft and fuzzy. It sounds so advanced. It sounds so medically breakthrough-y. Sort of a made-up word there, but you get where I'm going with this. And this is the peril for humanity. It's great to put to use one's creative genius, but there has to be some discipline that goes along with that creative genius to recognize when one is going too far. We weren't allowed to eat from the tree of knowledge, right? We already ate from the tree of good and evil, which got us banned from the Garden of Eden. Of course, we didn't really learn the lesson because there are too many out there trying to steal God's glory and go after his knowledge, his sovereign knowledge, his all-knowing knowledge. That's how we get headlines like this nowadays. Transhumanist genetic enhancement, creation of a new man. What the heck is that? You know, transhumanists believe that humans are, they're pretty good, but you know what? We can do better. We can have better humans. We can have humans that never get sick. We can have humans that never have to worry about diseases or viruses. Guess what? We can even make humans that never die. We can crack that old God code and develop what God made, but better. The transhumanist project of reshaping human beings by promoting their improvement through technological innovations has a broad agenda. That is the first line of a National Library of Medicine posting from the National Center for Biotechnology Information. It was written June 2021. And these scientists conduct this study that, in their words, focuses on the enhancement of the human organism through genetic modification techniques. Human organism? How about just humans? How about people? Or is that too intimate for these scientists? It's much easier if scientists and scholars and the medical bureaucrats and elites who think that they know better, not just of us, not just of individuals, how to run our lives, but they know better than God. It's much easier if they remove themselves from associating with us peon people and label us instead of people or individuals as organisms. We're kind of like that piece of blobby stuff on the Petri dish that we all remember from our 6th grade biology days. Human organisms. Look, I don't know about you, but I'm a lot more comfortable with having God in charge of creating humans than I am, say, with Anthony Fauci and his type of science. Because remember, Anthony Fauci, I am science. He's the guy. He's the guy that told us If one face mask is good, two face masks are better. By logical extension, that must mean 19 face masks are even better than that. He's the guy, he's the type of scientific brainiac who would applaud the development of a human that was better than what God created. I don't know how humans can become so arrogant to think that they can create a new man, a new humanity, a human part 2 better than the human part 1. I mean, talk about arrogance. Talk about hubris. Talk about pride. But there you have it. It's out there. There are plenty of scientists out there who think that they can create a new man, a new humanity, a better humanity. Won't get sick. Won't deal with the heartaches of physical life. Will rise above it all and never die. This, as these same scientists are out there warning about the perils of failing to address climate change and the growing population. 8 billion in the headlines just this week. 8 billion people on planet Earth. And all the nail biters out there in the scientific world are trying to figure out, how are we going to feed these people? What are we going to do with all these people? And at the same time, these same scientists are trying to pursue a scientific development that will guarantee humans never die. Sort of interesting how they might sidestep that little conflict, right? Anyhow, I have a great guest today. She has written a book called Hacking the God Code. Her name is Patricia Cori, and the subheadline, the second headline on this book is The Conspiracy to Steal the Human Soul. That's what we're talking about here, right? God didn't just create flesh and blood humans. He breathed the soul into his creations, into his human creations. And now scientists want to come along and replicate that. not just replicate it, but do it one better. Patricia, I want to thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. I appreciate your time.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Hacking the God Code, the conspiracy to steal the human soul. What an awesome title for a book. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, thank you for that. The idea for the book is pretty clear. I mean, the title speaks for it. I think that the transhumanist agenda that's underway is determined to hack into our DNA, to put it bluntly, hack into our DNA system and steal a soul right out of the human race. So we've had representatives from the World Economic Forum say they know how to hack the human being and that we're hackable animals. And I heard this after I came up with the title, interestingly enough. And that's the plan, to hack into us, to transmute us into some form of mind control beings, human 2.0.
So let's unpack a little bit what you said, because some listeners may not be aware of the transhumanist movement. I am, and I know that it's alive and kicking out in California, where they even have candidates running for high offices like the governor office out there who further the idea of transhumanism. But explain to listeners what transhumanism is and why it matters to the state of humanity.
Well, it's a global phenomenon, and it is being pushed by let's call it the globalists that are determined to alter the human race, to push us into a state of being connected to the Internet of Bodies, which has to do with us being monitored, connected to artificial intelligence by wearing what they call wearables, by highly more intense equipment like the cell phone, more power to that, more capacities to invade the human being, for example, using digital recognition in order to even get on your phone, and implanting chips, and all of this is happening. And it is, I'd like to say, not as behind the scenes as it was a few years ago, because the race is on. We have Elon Musk pushing for Neuralink to drill a hole in the brain and insert a computer. This is real time. This is happening. That his agenda for that is by 2023, they should be able to put this brain, not even a chip, a computer into the human brain. And the excuse for this is because it will help people with paralysis, spinal injuries, etc. But this movement, the transhumanist movement, has as its core the idea that we need to be transformed into beings that have much more of a connection, even if you want control by a central computer, artificial intelligence system.
So at root, transhumanists want to do what they call defeat death. They think that humans, through technology, can be brought into this state of being where there is no more death. And part of the means that they use to achieve that is through technology and artificial intelligence, and melding humans into artificial intelligence. And you brought up correctly, Elon Musk has great interest in this avenue. But guess what? So did Jeffrey Epstein, yes?
Yes, indeed. Well, I would like to say that there is, if we talk about the globalist, which is a term that makes some people uncomfortable, but we do see that we have a globalist political system influencing the world by the mere nature of the fact that we have people in positions politically who are being placed there by the World Economic Forum. And that organization, is absolutely gung-ho for transhumanist evolution. They actually refer to us as Human 1.0, and that the hackable plan for what they call hackable animals, that would be us, would be to transform us into Humans 2.0, hooked up more and more into artificial intelligence. And it's unfolding, but I believe that humanity will not stand for that. And that's a theme in my book.
Well, we've all just seen, or maybe not all, maybe not enough people have seen, and that's part of the problem. But some of us have seen those video clips coming out of the recent Davos conference where the elitists in the big government bureaucracies talked about having tracking chips in children, having technological chips placed in individuals to determine whether or not they've taken their daily dosages of medicine and so forth. And this is all just the start of what you describe in your book, Hacking the God Code, as an alarming trend that could eventually destroy all of humanity.
It will certainly alter what human being is if they succeed. We human beings, biological God, well, let's say, I don't want to say God-fearing or God-loving, but there is a spark of light in every human being that I refer to as the God Code. And if they want to hack that DNA, will they hack that? Will they have a way to hack that out of the human DNA? This is what I propose in the book, because they now have technology called CRISPR, where geneticists are going in and they can identify exactly what point in the genetic sequence they want to intercept and cleave. And my question is, what do they want to put in its place?
There are some people out there who have expressed concern with the recently developed and mandated, in many instances, messenger RNA shots for the coronavirus. Does your book go into that at all?
It's very interesting that you bring that up, because needless to say, there's a connection. And the question remains, since I didn't know if we could be comfortable talking about that, but we know that the shot contains mRNA.
Right.
And we also know that the mRNA, it was a study at Lund University in Malmo, Sweden, that identify the mRNA as definitely affecting the DNA in the hepatic cells. Because the big pharma have said that that's not true, it's not possible, it remains local, and that's bogus. We know that's not true. So if the synthetic mRNA messenger that's going in through that needle can affect our DNA, then isn't that exactly what you're talking about? And isn't that deliberate, that they're going in to alter the DNA?
Well, it's interesting because the messenger RNA shots have been around for a very long time in the research phase, but it's never been before used in humans because they find that it doesn't have the efficacy powers of preventing a certain virus that they hope for. And this is exactly what we're seeing with these shots that are being brought forward now. And I suspect exactly why we're being told by Joe Biden, our own president, that we have to keep taking booster after booster after booster.
Exactly. And if it were, in fact, a vaccine, there would be no reason to keep taking all these boosters because the nature of a vaccine is to create antibodies. And that is not happening. So booster after booster, 7, 5, 8, how many boosters do they need? And to recognize that it's ineffective at best.
Absolutely. And so, of course, then that raises red flags about what is going on with the push for these shots, which I call shots, not vaccines, because as you point out, the powers of a vaccine are supposed to prevent the virus from occurring, and that's not what these shots are doing. But getting back to the specifics of your book, what are some of the specific findings and specific topics that you go into?
I'm talking a lot about the transhumanist programming and how they're planning to hook us up to AI. I'm talking about the mRNA deliberately going in and altering the DNA and attacking the God code. In other words, deliberately, I believe that there's a deliberate intent to go in and remove, because I believe that the DNA contains the God code. That spark of light, that intelligence, that divine creator, whatever we want to call the great architect that designed DNA as the biological imprint of all living things. It feels like this force that wants us not to be brilliant. Because, let me interrupt myself and say that this man Yuval said, these humans, with this fantasy of God and soul and immortality, he said, yeah, that's over. Human 2.0 will have much increased capacity through computer technology, blah, blah, blah. So they're interested in diminishing that light. And this is a very important part of the book because I believe that that's what they're after and that we're being told that mRNA injections are the way of medicine in the future. So this experiment that's been done on humanity will be utilized in medicine from here on out is what we're being told. And I agree with you that this could be the extinction factor for humankind. So I'm warning people and I'm inviting people to look at this whole experiment with that light, that we are being programmed to be a different species. They actually say this at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And so this is a crisis moment for humanity, and I believe that we are in Armageddon. And it's a spiritual war now, and the war is on for the human race. So even though we think that World War III could be in Russia and Ukraine and all of these diversive projections, the actual World War III that's underway is these forces against the human race.
I'm glad you put it in terms of the spiritual battle because biblically speaking, which I don't know your religious leanings, my show is Build Bold and Blunt Christian Conservative Perspectives because I am Christian and conservative. But speaking from a biblical viewpoint, a spiritual viewpoint, it's the ultimate evil. It's the ultimate force of evil trying to steal God's glory, which is the creation of life, and in humans that manifests as the soul.
I agree with you completely, and we are definitely in sync spiritually. And that idea is central to the work in the book, that there's actually a Luciferian interest in diminishing that godlight within us. So it is a spiritual battle. We're in it. Armageddon is not in the future. It's now. It's unfolding now. And we can see the degradation of society. But my belief is that the ultimate war, the ultimate weapon, is mutation of the DNA. Because that means you can alter a species completely. And we're doing this in laboratories. We've got chimeras, we've got hybrids, we've got, even in these needles, there are cells from fetuses, which is subject for another day, really obsessed me. But the idea is that if they can alter the DNA, they can mutate a species and alter the destiny of that species and hence even the planet. So, yes, it is biblical. Absolutely.
Do you think most of the research driving this quest is coming from the medical community or from the military community?
I think they're a united force.
Okay. And
I don't think they're independent of each other. But we do know that the military industrial complex is a very big part of this whole agenda.
I imagine in your book you take great care to source all your findings because you probably knew going in that people were going to call this, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory and so forth. So in your research, what were some of the findings that shocked even you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to answer that by saying that I'm not intimidated by being called a conspiracy theorist because I've been on this trajectory all of my life, and that as the days unfold, even the doubting Thomases and skeptics are recognizing that what was once explained away as a conspiracy theory is now showing itself as a conspiracy. The conspiracy is against humankind.
Right.
But yeah, my sources, a lot of my material is very spiritually based because I'm a metaphysician and I have, let's say, a broad expanse of experience in that field. And then I've researched medical information. I've quoted some of the doctors, like Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Bregan, who have come out with earth-shattering information that, of course, is threatening their careers. And I've also talked about how the military has planned the dimming of the sun. We know all about that now. There's actual information about how the military planned the dimming of the sun. This is not conspiracy theory. And I link that to the dimming of light in the human being. I just don't think these guys like light. So we have the dimming of the sun, the dimming of light within the human being. And I think all of this is a very nefarious agenda. But yes, I do protect myself with sourced information from experts.
So I know our time is growing tight, but I wanted to fit in this last question. If the trajectory were to continue as it's going right now, and Americans or citizens didn't wake up and see the writing on the wall that you show in this book, how far away, how long would it take before the transhumanist agenda were realized?
That's a very good question. They have an agenda called Agenda 2030, and this also has been identified by the World Economic Forum. And that is their target time for us to be hooked up to social credit systems where we have no liberty with finances, with our medical information, and the rest of it. And for inserting chips and the whole works. Wearables. Bill Gates is very big on wearable transmission material, technology, where everything about your body gets monitored back to the central computer. I don't think he really means wearables. I think he means internal monitors. And they are on a fast track to 2030. It has actually been identified as Agenda 2030. So if people are interested in knowing more, they, of course, will get more information from my book. But there is also plenty of information now out about the transhumanist agenda and World Economic Forum.
This is a fascinating discussion. Can't wait to read your book. It's crucial, I think, that Americans wake up to the perils for our individual liberties. The Great Reset, I think Americans are awakening to, but what you point out, I think it's the next step that people have to awaken to and realize it's real threats on the horizon. So, Patricia Cori, I really want to thank you for coming on Bold and Blunt.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. And after you read the book, perhaps you can have me back and we'll dig in deeper.
Yeah, it seems like this is a large topic and there's a lot more to explore.
Absolutely.
That's a lot to take in, right? First off, there's many people out there, you say something like this, you talk about an issue like this, and they immediately think, oh, conspiracy theory, how stupid. Let's all get our tinfoil hats and everything. But look, it really doesn't take a lot of research to see that this is exactly the type of stuff that the Davos crowd, that the pinheads in the World Economic Forum, that the Klaus Schwabs join forces with Bill Gates type of people want to push on the rest of humanity. There are people out there who think that they truly know better how you as an individual should live your life and that you need to be told what to do. And that humanity is pretty good, but they can do better. They can one-up God on that. This is what evil is. This is the face of evil. Hacking the God Code, it's a book that's a worthwhile read. I hope you pick up a copy. And I hope you subscribe to Bold and Blunt, if not at WashingtonTimes.com. Or, if not at Spotify or wherever you get your regular podcasts, then definitely at edify.app, the online platform for faith-based podcasts. I appreciate your support. Tune in next time. And in the meanwhile, stay blunt, stay bold.